Hi everyone, I'm Joe. Today it's time for me to do my reading wrap up for April 2023. April was a good reading month. I read 4 books in total by 2 different authors in 2 genres. But before I talk about the books, I'm just going to mention a television series that I actually watched in March, but I actually simply forgot about until this wrap up. And that program is the Netflix made Wednesday. This is based on the character of Wednesday Addams, played by Jenna Ortega, from the Addams family. And this is the first and so far only time I have ever seen something by the director Tim Burton that I actually like, and actually really liked a lot, which I was really surprised about, because Tim Burton is a director that I've tried to watch his films many times in the past, various ones. I mean, he's very well known and very well loved director. But to me, I find his work to be generally overly dark and fairly depressive, and frankly just too weird for my liking. And I've never got on with it. Wednesday was a departure from that for me. It obviously has a darkness in it without fail, but it isn't all dark, and it's not quite as strangely weird as his other work is. At least that's what I think. So I really enjoyed it because the character of Wednesday is a brilliant one. All the supporting cast members, Wednesday's family, and all the students of the school, because this is where Wednesday Addams goes to an academy for school purposes, and obviously gets involved in murder and mystery and things going on there. And it's an interesting environment, one that I really liked, and it's a program that I would really recommend, especially if Tim Burton hasn't worked for you before. This worked for me, so something a bit different personally. Now I'll get on to talking about the book, and the first of those is The Dragon Waiting, written by John M. Ford. This was a buddy read that I did with a really good friend of mine, Rachel, known as FinalBlowJoe. I'll link her channel in the description box below, in fact. And let's say, first of all, I am really glad that I read this with Rachel, because by myself, I'm not sure if I would have picked it up in the first place, and I'm not sure if I would have enjoyed this as much if I hadn't been talking about it with Rachel and bouncing back ideas backwards and forwards, and really, getting into it and getting far more from it than I would otherwise. This main reason for this is that this is alternative history fantasy, which is not something that I read often, and frankly it's not something I have much knowledge of. And normally I just find it a bit strange often. And this was strange, but because I was talking about Rachel, it worked remarkably well, and indeed we will be reading more by Ford in the coming month, which I'm really looking forward to. However, The Dragon Waiting, it is set on the borders of Italy. It is set around the idea of the Byzantine Empire is present. The Medici is in Italy at the time, and 4 strangers to each other, they meet up in this little tavern at the side of a road in the Swiss Alps, and a murder goes on. They realise that none of the other 3 have committed this murder, and they also realise that the other 3 have certain worldviews and political views that seem to work with themselves, and they seem to get on with each other fairly well for the most part. So they all have a desire for one reason and one specific purpose, and that is to see Richard III become King of England. So this is in my part of the world then. And it's basically these 4 characters who are rather interesting and varied, because you have a doctor who is really, really good and really advanced for the time. You have a wizard. You have a extremely good mercenary. And you have a vampire. Yes, this is alternative history. Vampires exist. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely interesting concept, and it sounds strange, and it is. It really did work for me. I mean, like I said, talking about it with Rachel and bouncing ideas back and forward, that's what worked for me. And it has some remarkable writing, and I am certain, because I know Rachel thought exactly the same as me, that this is a book where having a reread in, say, 2 years' time or so would actually greatly benefit me, because there are things about this book that, yes, obviously I got the majority of them, especially talking with Rachel, you know, be bounced back ideas back and forward. If I didn't get something, she almost certainly would, and if something she might have missed, then, you know, I might not have, and, you know, we'll sort of get more from the book overall. But there are little details here or there that a reread would definitely benefit from, and this book is actually one of those rare circumstances where rereads actively benefit the book. They're not just fun, but they're actively beneficial. So this is an interesting book, and one that I would recommend because it's got remarkable writing. Ford has got a way of describing the world and scenery and such, and the location and the characters, where you think that he's got more detail than he actually does use, because he manages to make you, the reader, think, this is this environment, and you create it in your mind, and he only does a small part of the work. So he's physically sort of encouraging your imagination to create environments and characters and build them up far more than his writing gets actually done, which is actually quite an achievement, one that I think is really impressive overall. And now on to the second and last books, because they are free. And you won't be surprised to see these three if you watch my last wrap up, because they are the 7th, 8th and 9th books in the Expanse series, which are Persepolis Rising, Tiamat's Wrath, and finally Leviathan Falls. Now I am going to be doing, with great difficulty, a overall review and overview of the Expanse series, which is 9 books in total. I'm currently debating whether to actually wait a short while, however, because I have just sort of been reminded that the combined short story collection of all the short story novellas based in the Expanse world is actually coming out in the next week in paperback, so I'll get a matching edition. And I would quite like to read that, so I might wait with that review actually, but it will happen in the fairly near future, because I am going to order it pretty much as fast as I can, because I want to review these books. The idea of the Expanse is that this is obviously a grand space opera science fiction, where you've got the crew of a small ship called the Rocky County. The 4 members that make up the crew start off in the first book part of a larger crew on board a ice mining vessel. That ship gets destroyed. They manage to survive by getting on another ship, and frankly that triggers multiple other events, the least of which is, in the first book at least, an alien molecule which basically turns people into these horrible, what they are called, vomit zombies, and they are as unpleasant as they sound. And the books go from there. You've got an alien species in the book that is sort of only mentioned from time to time. It's not the all-dominating force that it appears in the first book. And also, point to note is each of the 3 sets of books that comprise the overall Expanse, of there are 9, are 3 different trilogies. So this has a overall main sort of different bad guy, so it's called, or evil man, or evil sort of a source, or antagonist as the official term would be, than the previous 2 trilogies. The first book is the alien protein molecule. The second trilogy is a character that realises that there's an opportunity for power due to what the alien protein molecule affects, and the third trilogy is one again who's taking advantage of the situation. However, just point out that this trilogy, this third sort of trilogy, which obviously there is an overarching storyline as well, which this fits into, this is the weakest of the 3 trilogies overall, because the main bad guy, the antagonist, is not very well done on it. I think he's weaker in ways that I'm not going to go into now, but it just doesn't work that well, and frankly I was actually bored reading about the antagonist. All the other times it was interesting, all the previous books, but with this 3, I thought he didn't really work. He was almost too powerful in certain ways, and it didn't feel quite right. But overall, it's just a fitting ending to the world of the Expanse. I'm really glad that I've read them. I will, in time, when I can get access to them, watch the Expanse series, which is Amazon produced, unless I'm mistaken. And I would love to see what the characters are like, and specifically what actors they've got to play the characters, and how they, match up to obviously the characters that I've now spent 9 books reading about, and seeing those differences should be really, really interesting in total. And with that said, that is actually it for this wrap up. I hope it would be a short wrap, and indeed it's actually managed it for a change. So if you have read any of these, or you would like to, then please leave a comment, and we can talk about it, or you want to know more or anything else, then again leave a comment. All my social media links, as well as links to these books and a link to Rachel's channel, can be found in the description box below. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.